last session, we did some SMART goal setting, right? And just to kind of give you guys the roadmap, right? We did defining the goal, right? That's a SMART goal setting. And now today we're going to be doing that action planning, right? But first, just to go back into what we did last time, SMART, right? I feel like this, I'm just giving you guys easy questions to start us off. SMART, right? What does it stand for? Can anyone give me, the first one? Just give you like a little easy alley-oop. Who can give me what the S stands for in SMART?
I forget. I used to know this. Is it simple?
Very close, but you got the S part right. Thank you, Julie. It means
specific.
Specific, manageable.
Right, specific. So I'm gonna make sure, right, that as we go through these, I'm gonna give you the adjoining question that goes with this, right? Specific. Is my goal clear, right? If it's not clear to you, it's not clear to anyone else, and you're just gonna be kind of like moving with no real like direction, right? You want to make sure it's clear, right? So that's one, right? The next is measurable, right? Can I measure my progress? How will I know when I succeed? There's that phrase, which I'll repeat again, that which is not measured is not improved, right? You want to make sure you're finding some way of measuring your goal. Brian already beat us to the punch. No, Brian, you just basically blew up my presentation. No, I'm just joking. But you need to know that you can actually measure your goals. Now, achievable, can I do it? That's a very simple one, right? I mean, some people can just put too many goals, right? Or just like a too lofty of a goal, I should say. You want to make sure you can actually do the goal. You don't want to feel like you can't accomplish it, right? You're already setting out on the wrong foot if you feel internally, hey, I don't have what it takes to accomplish the goal. You want to make sure it's something that you can actually achieve and build on top of. Relevant. Does the goal matter to me? Is the goal aligned with my lifestyle? So, we just talked about that in the reflection, actually, right? Making sure that the goal matters to you, right? Sometimes I see this quite a bit in our industry. A lot of people who look at others and say, hey, I need to do what they're doing in order to be successful. And that can work to a certain degree, but ultimately, right, what we're after is what matters to me and what works for me. And that sort of internal, reflection is what a lot of people miss and don't do, and why they get suboptimal results, because they're doing stuff that they ultimately don't believe in. You need to be doing stuff that you believe in, right? And make sure that your actual lifestyle is aligned with it. Time bound. When do I need to do it by? Right? And this is probably the one that I feel like most people just aren't real about. Sometimes people don't put deadlines. Sometimes people put deadlines that are just too early. And then they get overwhelmed, and then they just fall off the wagon, and then they don't even look at their goals anymore. Don't do that. Give yourself the best chance of succeeding, right? And just be real with yourself, right? I remember I used to have these things where I would want to get everything done early in the week. So I'd book all my meetings in the week, like Monday, Tuesday. And by the end of like Tuesday, I felt like I was running ragged. I didn't have enough energy for all the other things I wanted to do, right? So when I started to be more realistic with my time, I was able to actually accomplish more. So make sure you're being realistic with that goal setting and give yourself the best chance of actually succeeding. Like, remember, you're kind of running your own race here. Everyone likes to, in our industry, right? We're all competitive, right? I want to do more. I want to do more. But at the end of the day, we're all running our own race, right? So just make sure you're really putting these goals in mind for what matters to you and what you ultimately want to accomplish, right? So who can give me an example of an LO specific SMART goal? I had some people who completed the assignment, so I'm sure they can.
Like a sales volume, like, loan amount. I was thinking of a loan amount until the end of the year, like 5 million.
Right. Okay, there you go. Right. That's a good one, right? I want to close, 5 million in, loan volume by the end of the year. That's one, definitely. Anyone else? Any takers?
Serafin?
Yeah, Serafin, but close. Yes, Rhonda?
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I just got off a webinar and it was about growing your business. So I guess one of the sales goals would be contacting and speaking to a certain number of realtors per day or per week is one
Yeah.
for me right now.
Definitely. That can be a goal as well. 100%, right? So ultimately, right, we want to make sure it's just following like, well, what's, and this is what I say, guys, like there's certain directionality of goals, right? There's usually like the main thing, right? Which I would say mostly as loan officers, which really much is like akin to salesperson. So you want to increase your volume of sales at the end of the day, right? Like you don't want to overcomplicate things, right? Ultimately, right, there's this idea, right, that in order to be successful in our industry, you need to be closing more loans, right? So most of the goals really like are derivative or based off of that main goal, right? But of course, there are other goals that are a part of that, right? And I don't want to take away from those, but really we want to keep it simple here. And I think the sales goals are really simple for us to follow and make sure that we are building correctly. Right. So I'll do a quick review of the homework assignment. I do want to say thank you to Armin, Rita, Michael, Garcia, Gabriela, and Vincent for all doing the assignment. Thank you so much. I have spoken to our team and they're going to assign you guys 1,000 points for our ESHL point system. So I just want to say thank you for that because you guys went above and beyond. I know it was optional, but I do want to say that like I see you, I recognize you. Thank you. Now, just to go into the assignment itself, right, we wanted to go ahead and go into our SMART goals, right, and create some of those SMART goals for ourselves. A few of you have already done that, which again, I appreciated. And some SMART goals I received, just to let you guys know, is I will close 3 loans every month. I will close 1 loan by the end of the summer. Create a stronger digital footprint on social media to generate new leads. Attend 2 networking events monthly to generate new realtor relationships. Initiate 3 conversations every day with realtors to generate referrals. Call 3 past clients or prospective clients daily to generate leads. Right. So those are all some good, goals to have for ourselves. Right. And I'm going to share this with you as well, by the way. But if there's anything that speaks to you in this, SMART goals lineup that I just gave you, write it down, right? Or write your own ideas down, right? Ultimately, they have to matter to you. Now, I did want to point this out because there is a distinction between goals and objectives, right? And almost always, what happens is that we get them confused, right? So I just wanted to clarify this. It's not too it's not too critical, but it is going to help you like organize your thoughts better. And that is, right, that a goal is a broader statement, right, of an achievement you want to accomplish, right? Like think of it like a longer term goal, right? You don't want to, you want this thing to give you direction, right? Goals that are too short often don't have the vision in mind for you to continue to have direction that you need in order to like have that larger accomplishment, right? So you want to think a little bit more long-term. Think of like a year for a goal. I would say like as kind of like a standard. You can even have those 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals if you're that far forward thinking. But remember, goals are typically a little bit more broad. They give you the direction, right? So I just talked a little bit about that, right? How there's some base goals here, improving your market share, customer satisfaction. An objective, right? It's not too complicated, but an objective is a subset of the goal. And shorter term, right? It's smaller usually, right? We're think of more like in the quarterly or in the monthly, weekly, daily sort of categories, right? So it's typically smaller, but just to make it easy for you guys, goals are on top usually. They give you the direction on that pyramid, and objectives are below it in service of the goal, right? So, and that's what we're going to be focused on today is really the objectives, right? And then the actions that need to be taken, right? And so I just wanted to make that as a distinction because I did notice that there was some of that confusion. So yeah, just take it for what you will. This is going to help you though, like create your own mental framework as to how to go about creating these plans. And hopefully when you're all ultimately successful, you'll be able to share what I share with you today. And the last point here is to tie in your objectives to the goal, right? So you want to make sure that the objective is in service of something. So what I typically do when I write my objectives is that I say what it's for, right? If I'm going to call 3 realtors, right, then I'm going to call 3 realtors to try and generate or drum up business, right? And then that gives me a direction of why I'm doing it. Oftentimes I see people who like don't do that, and they just end up doing a series of like 10 different tasks that aren't really tied together. You want to make sure that your effort is being spent the right way. So tie those tasks, tie those objectives into something larger that's more meaningful to you, right? It makes those more mundane things that you end up having to do a little bit more meaningful. Okay, so now some action planning, right? What is an action plan? So good, right, for us to make goals. But I like to think about what James Clear says here about goals. The Olympic athletes that are running track and meet all have the same goal. Their goal is to all win a gold medal. Yet at the end of the day, only one person can win the gold medal. What's the difference between that one person who won the gold medal and the other 7 who didn't? It couldn't have been the fact that they had the same goal, right? They all had the same goal. They all are striving towards the same thing. So the goal isn't the differentiator to success. What is the differentiator to success? That is action, actually, right? And it can go a little bit more in depth, but I will just hammer on this point. It's action. It's a series of actions that you take in order to accomplish that goal. It's the person who decides to wake up a little bit earlier than everyone else. It's the person who decides to call a few more people than they otherwise would. It's the actions that you take. Your goals give you direction, but they won't get you there. You have to get you there, right? So this is why this part is so important, because it starts to get you invested into your own framework of how you are successful. The content of what I'm teaching today is, of course, like how to achieve your goals, like in this professional format, but the impact really is how you can learn to framework your own device to success, right? We all have our own different ways of succeeding. You have to really own and author your way of success. And this comes with what you're really willing to do and being willing to execute on that day in, day out. So remember, goals take you part of the way, but they don't get you there, right? Now, action planning is where you break down those goals, right, into objectives and list all the necessary actions you need to achieve them. We are delving into what it takes to accomplish the goal. We are not simply, okay, that's my goal, and then never see it again, right? We have to be so invested in making it real that it actually just becomes a part of who we are. And that's the true mark of like inevitable success is what I call it. You have to practice at this so much that like, it's just inevitable that you're successful. Like you're not gonna, maybe a day or two, like when you don't get the expected results, maybe even a week or a month, you still show up, you're consistent, you make something happen. That is what it takes to have that inevitable success. Now, this part that we're talking about, I call it putting everything on the table, right? And the reason why is because, like I mentioned earlier in this call, a lot of us like to take action quickly, right? And that's great. I love that. Don't ever lose that. But we also have to, direct that action towards something. And before we go ahead and make a move, we just want to put everything we got on the table, everything we got, everything that we feel is necessary to make us successful to accomplish that goal. So you just got to really just put everything out there, right? Everything you need to do, all the things that can potentially get in your way. I'll give you the checklist right now of what that entails. But what we're doing before we take an action is putting everything on, like, think also like a whiteboard, just writing it all down on the whiteboard with no judgment. We're just putting it on there, right? We're just seeing where we're at right now, taking stock. You can also hear it called taking inventory, right, of what you got right now, what you may need in the future, or maybe currently, right? So you don't want to like short this step, right? I'm pretty sure everyone here has taken an exam and has thought that like question A or the answer A was the right answer to the question, but really it was question D. And then afterwards, you're like, oh yeah, of course it was. That happens because you are acting too quickly. You're not triggering the other part of yourself that needs to reflect on what other options you're working with. Evaluate your options, right? So that's what we're doing today. You really need to know what you're working with clearly and then take an action. All right, so here are the steps to create an action plan. All right, you guys ready? You got to set that SMART goal. Now, if you guys already did that, I'm so happy for you. Great. If you haven't done one yet, write one right now. Set a SMART goal, okay? Identify all the objectives you need to complete to reach your goal. Now remember, objectives in service of the larger goal. Just write down the objectives. And again, it can be a variety of things. I'll have a few examples for you. After you write down those objectives, identify actions you need to complete each objective. Okay, we're just writing it all down, right? We're not, whatever comes easiest to us, we're writing it down. That doesn't mean you have to, break your head over every single possible objective that there is or action. You just need to start putting things on there, right? It's almost like you're creating your own jigsaw puzzle, right? And then after you put all the puzzle pieces on there, you're like, okay, how does this fit together? How can I do this, right? So that's what you're doing right now. You're trying to figure out how these pieces fit. Now, prioritize the objectives that offer you the most return on your time, right? Or give you a return that will, in some way, like shows you that this is worth it, right? So I like to remind people, right, that there will be some objectives that are going to just be more fundamental to completing others, right? You're going to need to complete some things before others because it's just like the logical order of the thing, right? So pay attention to that, right? The cost of, again, shorting that will be that you have to go backwards, right? And we don't like to feel like we're going backwards, right? So make sure that you're also taking time to prioritize the objectives, setting a deadline for each objective and each action, right? Now that you have some priority, right? Okay, objective A before objective B, C, D. Okay, now when do I want to get these things done? And how quickly can I get these things done within a time frame? What resources do you need or have access to reach your goal? This is one that everyone misses. Like, I kid you not, everyone thinks that they're starting from scratch. You're not starting from scratch, all right? Like, there's so much resources out there. It's insane. And a lot of people just like start from the beginning as though they're like inventing the wheel. And then they just miss out on like the work that other people have done in this like area that they could honestly just replicate, right? For example, right? I mean, all the resources that we offer here at Equity Smart for You, right? I mean, that's one, right? All the partnerships and vendors that we have here, lenders that we have here, that's another, right? Professional associations, maybe your own sphere of influence, your family, right? Like, there's so many resources that you have access to, and yet we don't often tap into them. And that's a detriment. It's a detriment to yourself because you're undermining your ability to complete the goal, right? Like, just see what you have access to, see what's going to help you get there, and then be clear on what you need, right? Knowing what you don't know is so critical to making yourself just be successful in reaching that goal. So don't short that step. Anticipating the obstacles, right? And I'm going to let you guys know, most of the time, The obstacle is ourselves. Yeah, like most of the time, right? We actually create these like little agreements of what we're willing to do and not willing to do. And it's kind of, you hear other people do it and you're like, yeah, of course you're not going to be successful, right? Like if you're not willing to consider calling 5 past clients and just asking how they're doing, yeah, you're probably not going to be successful. But then we do it to ourselves. And then we're like, oh, I'm busy. I got things I got to do. I got to pick up my kids, or I got to do this. And, before you know it, you've delayed something for 2 weeks. You got to be real about where you're at and like kind of strategize against yourself. You got to play chess. And one thing that I've noticed in myself that I'll share with you that works very well when it comes to doing new things, do it in the morning. Do it literally before you start anything else that's familiar to you. Make it the first thing you do. If you don't like calling people, I get it. But you can't really get around it here, right? You got to do some sort of communicating, letting people know that you are out there trying to make business happen. So you have to actually find a way to make that happen. You got to do it in the morning. Do it before you start everything else, because that's when your willpower is highest, actually. That's when you're more willing to try new things. Now, there can be people out there who are a little different and they're willing to do it later in the day or the evening. I'm not one of those people. And if you are, awesome, if that's your strategy. But I would say just make sure you're anticipating the obstacle. And oftentimes it's just how willing we are to perform the new set of tasks, right? So just know that. And then of course, measure your progress, right? That one's, I feel like I'm going to continue to say that all throughout. And these are some questions for you guys to make sure you're mindful of as you create your action plans, right? So what do I need to achieve my goal, right? We're trying to take that larger goal, break it into subsets. How long should each action take? Just kind of get an idea. You don't have to like necessarily timeline it immediately and say, oh, 2 weeks from now. If you have an idea that it might take a week or 2 weeks to do this, then just note it. Again, we're just interested in learning how these pieces fit and trying to strategize a way to create our own path for success, right? Of course, right? What resources do I have access to? Prioritization, the obstacles that may prevent me, and the expected outcome. If you ever get confused or lost, simplify it. If you get to a point where you're looking at your goal and you're like, oh God, it just makes your head ache because you just don't know where you started. And, then probably a sign that you need to simplify things and just keep it, just get it back to basics, right? We don't need some super elaborate goal. What we need is some action, right? And if the goal is only as useful as it allows you to take action. So keep it simple and ask, what am I trying to accomplish? Right? What am I really trying to accomplish? You'll be surprised how often sometimes we do not think about this even before we get into meetings. I remember one of the times when I started first, like my work started changing because I started moving up in like my management, that I had to start doing more meetings and I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to accomplish. And so I started, I relied from like shooting from the hip, but I call it thinking from the hip, where you're just kind of like seeing what happens on the fly and you're just making snap decisions and you're like, oh yeah, I can do this, right? But then you're like, oh yeah, if I thought about this earlier, that would have been a better time to have made that decision. So you got to go into this thinking about what you want to accomplish, right? And no, it sounds basic, but a lot of times we just skip it. So think about those things, keep it simple. I think we'll be on the right track. Now, I'm going to give you guys an example here, right? And again, we're going to use the base model of, I want to increase my sales this year, right? So I will close 9 loans by the end of the year, right? Now you can see that the goal itself, right, it's very easy to understand. It's clear. It's not too what is it? Hard to understand. It seems very, okay, yeah, I can look at that. Yeah, there we go. Close 9 loans by the end of the year. I don't think anyone has any questions about what I'm trying to do. Now, how am I going to do that, right? Well, I have some objectives here, right? I can build more realtor relationships, right? Now, I also, just like side note here, I like to think of like objectives as like kind of also like strategies or tactics. So just think of the different avenues the different approaches you can use to accomplish 9 loans by the end of the year. Now, 9 loans by the end of the year, one of the things that I'm going to critique myself here, I would critique is it specific enough? What type of loans, what type of borrowers, you want to think about those things, right? You can do that sort of definition of your goal in the objectives, right? So that way your SMART goal still stays easily referenceable, right? You want to make it so it's just, yeah, I know what I'm doing, right? Now the objectives, we're going to drill down into that further, right? You can leverage more sphere of influence or direct to consumer tactics. Consistent marketing on social media, right? Does anyone have any other ideas how we can close 9 loans by the end of the year?
Do 1 loan a month.
Yeah, I mean that I would consider that to be a sub goal though. That we're right now, or a milestone even. Marketing, I think that's good, but that's more of like a milestone. We want to get more into like the objectives here of like different ways we can actually close 9 loans by the end of the year. Does that make sense?
Maybe attend n number of in-person networking events. Yeah, exactly what Ivan said.
Yes, exactly. Right. That could be another one. Right. Yeah. Again, like you want to think of these like as almost like channels, right? Like they're like little streams that are feeding like the bigger river, right? If you're a visual person. So I have this action plan template. Oh, I have one other person.
Yes, I wanted to say, like maybe dedicate like $200 or whatever you can to the budget for marketing.
There you go. Right. That actually would be part of your actions there. But I do like that, and that's going to be very useful for us. So one of the things that I'm going to just move this over now to this. I created this action plan template for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to share it with you all right now in this chat, and by all means, feel free to improve it, make it better, whatever you want. Now, I will say that I want you guys to copy the template. Don't actually. Well, I made a viewer, so you couldn't edit it anyways, but go ahead, and what I want you to do is under file, make your own copy, right? That way the template still stays a template and it can be referenced in the future. So do me a favor, go ahead and do that right now. I love it, Ivan, thank you. That's really good. So I gave you this template, right? So that way you can actually start to organize your ideas, right? And I have some comments in here for you, of course. Sometimes helps to think of your goals, right, as answers to problems you're trying to solve. So this is not necessarily necessary, but if sometimes people do have troubles thinking of their goals. So think of your goal as an answer to something, right? There's a problem you see, I want to answer it. Dang, Brian, you're on fire. Yes, I love all your suggestions, by the way. Those are really good. So over here, we got the SMART goal, right? I just have some reminder for you all. Now, I got some feedback last time. I do want to thank everyone who gave me feedback as well, by the way. It was very, very useful. It's actually what I use to structure this training. So I went ahead and I gave you a little bit more like meat to this, right? So I gave you like an action plan example, right? So example problem is like slow sales due to high interest rates, right? I think we can all agree to some extent that there's some, inventory isn't moving. Let's leave it at that, right? So I will close 9 loans by the end of the year. Awesome. How will I accomplish this? Now I gave you 3 starter objectives, right? You can of course, put more. I think you can even have objective 4. right? Which we just heard, which is go to more networking and community events, right? Okay, so you can see that we have some objectives here, right? Now, again, these objectives, what are they in service of? This right here, right? I'm gonna zoom up on this boy. There, right? All of these are trying to help this, right? We're not doing this. We're not just going to networking and community events just because, right? If that's your thing, awesome, right? But I, who am a little bit of an introvert, would not just go for that for fun, right? I'm doing it because I want to accomplish something. I want to accomplish this, right? So make sure, again, that your objectives are tied into the larger goal, right? And I gave you guys an example of how we would map out objective 1, right? So leveraging sphere of influence or direct consumer tactics to close 3 loans by end of the year, right? So you can see now I actually took this and I broke it down to something smaller. I have an expectation now that I'm going to get at least 3 loans through these tactics. Is that achievable? Is that measurable? Is it specific? Is it relevant? Is it time bound? There you go, right? You can actually see that we can make our objectives smart too. And I highly encourage you guys to do that too, right? Everything should have some sort of expectation of an outcome, should follow the same sort of smart criteria we talked about, right? And we have right here, reach out to past clients or prospective clients, right? So I just started out with something very simple, right? That I think we can all get behind, right? Which is reaching out to past clients. Who of us here has a phone? Rhetorical. We all should have phones, right? That means you already have a list of clients, right? Technically, a list of prospective clients, right? You have a flip phone. You still got a phone though, Michael. So, but you can actually just go through those contacts, right? And just see, okay, who do I have access to that might be willing to hear more about what I do, right? And if not, well, or if you don't remember who they are, they're a good person, good a number as any to call, right? Of course, you want to, again, temper this with some actions, right? So here are some of the actions that we have, right? Extract all of past contacts from phone and place in spreadsheet or CRM. Create a script of what to say in the phone call, right? Again, we want to know what we're trying to accomplish. If you are making a career move and you want to let people know, hey, I've decided to become a mortgage loan officer. Here's why, then have that be a segue into a better conversation, right? You can even pose these as like, hey, it's been a while since I talked to you, Steve. Hope you're doing well. I just want to let you know that I actually started working in mortgage, and I just wanted to kind of get some feedback from you. I just where are you at, like in buying a home or refinancing your home? I just kind of want to see, because I'm learning more about my industry, how I can just deliver more value to my clients. I'd really appreciate that. And then just start having the conversations, right? You want to find your angle to have more conversations. The more that you have those conversations, the better. You want to create something that's specific to you though, right? Rehearse it, role play if possible, and then call three people per day. Let them know who you are and what you do. Note the feedback you get. Adjust your strategy and script accordingly. What do you guys think? Did I miss anything? Anything else that we should add there?
I think that was great. Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
I just want to, one of the things that I do, I call the people that I know, and then I talk to them just exactly what you said. But sometimes I ask them, hey, do you know anybody that is a real estate agent?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they say, oh, it's my daughter's a real estate agent, or my uncle or somebody. And then I ask him, hey, is it okay if I get an introduction to them?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the strategy I use when I call people that I already know.
Right. Basically, hey, do you know anyone who might be interested in what I'm doing? I would love to talk to them. I just want to collaborate, right? Like I noticed this a lot in us guys, and we really have to combat this. What we do, yes, of course, is a sales function, right? But you have value, so you don't have to feel dirty about asking people for referrals or for asking people if there's anyone that they know that might be interested in what you do. you are a professional in this industry, right? So, and if you have a good idea as to why you would want to like have those conversations, then go for it, right? So many times people are like playing like shy and they're like, you know, I'm not gonna ask. It's too much, you know. But like you're totally like undermining yourself. Like Farzad said, go ahead, right? And just ask, hey, do you know anyone who might be interested? Or who I could speak to, like a realtor, like friend of yours. I'm, you know, wanting to like build up my network. And there you go. And especially if they're a friend, I find it hard that they're not gonna try and help you out in some way, right? So that's great advice, Farzad. Anyone else? Anything else that we can add here to make it even more defined? All right, so I think we did it here. So then resources, right? Things I need to accomplish this, things I have access to. Well, I mean, there's some, and by the way, guys, you don't have to like write things that are like so obvious that like you just, it's kind of like, oh yeah, of course I know that I need a phone to accomplish this, right? Like, you know, but if there are other things that come alongside of it that might be useful that you don't have access to or you need to brainstorm about, then throw it in there, right? For one, right, it seems like you probably need a script, right? So then you are going to want to focus on creating a script, right? Things that can get in your way. What are some things that can get in our way? This is a pretty simple one, right? So the most, again, I'm going to restate what I said earlier. The thing that can get in your way most likely is you just not doing the work, right? Like we have a pretty clear action set of steps here that need to be taken, right? So we know, right, all these things are doable, right? So at that point, right, we want to start thinking about, of course you can assign it to yourself, right? I'll just give you guys an example. Let's say I want to do this by Friday. Bam, right? There you go. You do the same thing all throughout, right? Make sure you're setting the time or the deadlines for yourself there, right? So I'm gonna delete that task. Okay, and evidence of success. Yes, thank you, Julian. I love that. I'm gonna write this down right here. Fear of rejection. What was the other one? I want to see what else you wrote there. Then not being in the right mindset. It's very true. It's very true. So you're going to want to find answers to these things, right? If that's you, if you're like, if you have like that small, like if you have these fears that like trail you, then you're going to want to find an answer for that. What's going to help you overcome? Oh my God, yes, procrastination. Yeah. Say it for those in the back that can't hear. Procrastination.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it for sure.
Guys, if we were all being real about ourselves, we would recognize that procrastination has robbed us of so much in our lives. Like, don't let that happen anymore, right? Like, procrastination is literally like, you know, there's something there, right, that we're trying to avoid. That procrastination kind of scratches the itch, but we're never truly satisfied. You got to be mindful of that, right? And I know as someone who like had a history of procrastination as well, that like everyone comes from, but you're going to want to find a way to overcome that procrastination, right? And I would say, I also live on a calendar too. I would say to make sure that you are planning, committing to when these things are going to happen, right? Okay, it's not enough to just say I'll call them daily. If you know that's something that you're actually not going to look forward to, you know what you need to do. You actually need to do. You also need to what's called write an implementation statement. It sounds like more technical than it really is. It's basically a commitment statement, right? I will do this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m. Rain or shine, I will do it, right? Something like that. and you sign it or something. You know, there's like other ways of doing it. I did mention some of the tools that you could use, like Stick. I wonder if I can find that website for you guys, but I would recommend some sort of accountability platform to help you with this. So I'm just gonna just say it again for everyone, and I'm gonna just show you guys right here. This is a good one. Stick is a really good one. It actually puts a financial incentive in there, so where like you there's two types. One is like an incentive to, if you do it, you donate to someone or donate to a charity or something like that, a certain amount, let's say $10 per check-in period, let's say weekly. Or you can do another one, which is like, if I don't meet my goal, then I have to give $10 to, you know, some charity or other type of organization. So this is a good one to do. They also have an accountability partner feature in there, which I'd recommend for you guys if you are interested. And then I'll just say this again for everyone, because I'm doing this right now, and it is a really good app. That is Adams from James Clear. If you guys can see this one too. This is a good one. I've been using it, and it's very useful. You can track 6 habits that you want to develop, and you can set the cadence for those habits, and then check in every single time when you've done it. It's really good. It's like a 30-day free trial for anyone who's interested. So just take advantage of it. One of the things that like I've been wanting to do is get back into like some like meditation before I start my day, and I've done it like 30 days in a row now. So after not having done it for like a year and a half. So this stuff works, you know. If just sharing some best practices there, have something that helps keep the habit or keep the series of actions you need to do alive, right? But back over here, okay, evidence of success: 1 loan closed in 3 months, doing the above, right? I think that's how we know we're being successful, right? Remember, we want to punctuate our actions, right, with some checking in. Right, make sure that things are actually lining up the right way. If we don't have 1 closed loan in 3 months, what might we do? What do you guys think might we do if we're not actually getting the result we expect? We'll just change what we're doing, right? Yeah, new action. Then thank you. Very, very simple. We have to do something different, right? And a lot of times, it's because we're not doing something. We're not doing something, or we're not showing up in some way. So that if you're not hitting this sort of like milestone within the fixed amount of time, you need to go back and figure out what's going on, because it's not working. And then our tracking and evaluation process, we want to find some way to look at our KPIs, right? And we'll do a separate session on this, on like how to you know, track and monitor KPIs. I love data, guys. Like, I'm all up in the data. So data, like setting your a system to track your progress is going to be hugely important to making sure that you actually are successful. So we'll do that separately, another session. I want to see. Okay, let's see if I have anyone here that can give me some more other different. What are some other things that we can do to help us with this objective right here? That's to leverage some SOI, direct to consumer tactics. What else could we do you think? One idea that I had, and I would just kind of throw it out there for everyone, is you can actually set up a consultation process for, let's say, for first-time home buyers or new agents, etc. Right? That's one thing you can do. Delivering value already, right? Well, what can we do in that consultation, right? We can learn more about the person, figure out like where their current financial status is, where they are in the home buying process. You know, there are so many different ways that we can actually like make that objective more reachable. I like that. This is a great one actually, is to use UWM's what is it? Home estimator. And offer that to a prospective clients, right? So have a think about it, right? But there are so many things you can do here. If you even thought about like just using ChatGPT and be like, hey, ChatGPT, what are like 10 other things I can, yeah, that also works, right? But don't fall into the trap of just thinking, okay, that's enough, right? Because ultimately you need to select the actions that are going to be most meaningful to you. So back over here, just some final tips here. Make sure you're working with a SMART goal. Break down your goals into smaller ones. If you get stuck, ask, what am I trying to accomplish with this action? Prioritize tasks that free up your ability to complete other ones. Set realistic timelines. Allocate resources wisely. Now, something that we don't take seriously enough is that everything has a cost. Okay, everything. Remember, your time also has a cost, right? You are saying yes to this and no to something else. So take that seriously, right? You want to make sure that you are spending your time doing as high value of a thing as you can. That means you got to be real with what you really want to be spending time with, right? And know that if you're going to do it, make it count, right? Don't just go through the motions. You got to make it count. Monitoring that progress. Do not fall for the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy, right, is that you have gone so far into something that it's too late to back out now. That's not true, right? And actually, studies have shown that the more that you invest in something that you know is kind of not working for you, the more waste that there is just in general. You got to be real with what's working, what's not working. Stay flexible and admit when things need to be changed. And of course, like we mentioned last time, so you're gonna be times that we're not making progress. But remember, always remember this graph, guys. It takes some time to see the results that you're after. Sometimes as much as 3 months, right? Sometimes even more. You got to stay consistent, right? As long as you stay consistent, over time, you will come up. Make sure that you can do that. And I'll answer that question in a little bit, Gabrielle. I want to finish up right here. So homework for you guys. Okay. Oh, I forgot to change the assignment. Please excuse that. But I want you guys to choose one strategy or objective, right? Or make your own and create an action plan tailored to your specific goals, right? You got to make it simple. Create the action plan with at least 3 action or objectives based on one goal. And feel free to partner up with someone to complete the assignment, right? I want this to be like, this doesn't have to be a single solitary endeavor. We are all resources to each other, right? We can all help each other. So if you have someone like within like ESHO that, you already kind of have a relationship with, you want to partner up with, please, by all means, go ahead and do that, right? Maybe someone on the call, I want you guys to know that like we're all doing this work together, right? So feel free to partner up and submit this to me by the end of next Friday. So that's where I get the document we are working on right now. This will come also in a follow-up email, Yvonne, but I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it in the chat box for you guys. Okay, so where was I? Got it. All right. And lastly, so I got some feedback that you guys are like, hey, it'd be cool if we did something where we could just like talk more to each other, collaborate. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a Google workspace for us where everyone on this call will be added in, and it's gonna be dedicated to just collaborating, right? So I already have it created. And once I get like the list of attendees who came through today, I'm going to go ahead and send that over to you all. Okay. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. And before I forget, do me a favor, guys. Do me a favor and fill out this form for me, please. I'm dropping it in the chat for you guys right now. I really appreciate it. I got 15 responses last time, and I want you guys to know, like, I actually took all of that very seriously. It changed the structure of this one. So I wanted to do a breakout session for us, but unfortunately we don't have time. It's already 2 minutes to noon, and I have like another meeting I need to be in. But I would like to do some more like workshopping with you guys, where we can do maybe some like smaller like group sessions, and have like a little bit more of a group feel to it. I know that sometimes this sort of format is not the easiest for collaborating with people, so I'm taking note of that, and then I'm going to try and find a way for us to do a like more of a workshop sort of session where everyone can have some more comfortability to speak and collaborate. But yeah, I think that is it. So I want to say thank you, everyone. Do I have any questions, comments, ideas, concerns? Want to make sure I'm making myself available.
Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, be on the lookout for a follow-up. Okay, I will be sending the slides, recording, all that stuff, and we'll also be adding you all to that group chat. If at any point you're like, hey, I don't want to be in here, that's totally fine. It's optional. I only want to give you guys options to help make these goals that you have for yourself like real and achievable. So
Thank you.
yeah, of course. So I'll be sending that up shortly. Okay. And then to answer Gabby's question, there actually are platforms you can buy like contact lists. That's actually a question I just saw right now. Like, what do you do like for like to get like real estate agent contacts, right? So there are sites you can use, like data brokers you can use for that. And if you want to go like full scale, like I suppose you can do that. But honestly, I would say because real estate agents are very much also trying to get business, they freely market like Zillow and like realtor.com or Redfin. I mean, I would just look up like real estate agents in your area code, or not area code, your zip code, and then just go from there. Identify different segments. I think that's something that ask your title rep, right? That's actually another one that you can do. Like identify like other types of like mortgage professionals who might have lead sources, like escrow officers, title reps, that kind of stuff. But like back to that point, there's always a data broker that will sell you the information, but I don't think you need to spend money for that. You should be able to find like a good call list based off of like just looking like in your local area through the internet. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna let you all go here. I want to say thank you all for being on this call. I truly appreciate every one of you for being on the journey with me, right? And we will see each other again shortly. Okay, so take care. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.